Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
My dear students, today we are going to discuss about content analysis and its part 3. In this presentation, I am going to discuss about how to conduct a content analysis or what are the steps followed in conducting the content analysis. So let's get started. So the foremost step followed in content analysis is the selection of the content. Based on his research questions, the researcher has to choose the texts or contents which are to be analyzed. Here the researcher has to choose any kind of written or audiovisual contents for the study. For this, the researcher has to base some inclusive criteria. So the researcher has to choose the contents first which are to be analyzed, and he can choose any kind of written or audio or audiovisual contents. And regarding the choice of contents, the researcher has to set some criteria to select the contents according to the nature of his research questions or objectives. And the most important thing here is to work out a sampling technique if the body of contents is excessive. Depending upon the nature of communication content, whether it is a news item or editorial or a short story or a film or a TV serial, so the sampling technique will differ. Regarding the sampling technique followed in content analysis, I will make a separate presentation. So let's move towards the second step, and it is to define the units and categories of analysis. The researcher needs to define the units and categories. The units should be defined. The set of categories has to be specified. So, to be able to analyze the content, it is important for the researcher to divide the entire content collected into some categories so that it can be managed better. So this is a process of selective reduction where the text is reduced to some categories so that the research can be focused on the categories for specific words and patterns that answer the questions of the researcher. The categories could be a word, a phrase, a sentence, an article, etc. Next, to develop a set of rules for coding. So coding involves organizing the units of meaning into previously defined categories. It's important to clearly define the rules for what will and won't be included. So what is code? A code is the label that the researcher assigns to the text that has to be analyzed, and the text can be a word and phrase as I already stated in the earlier presentation. For example, the code politician is assigned when there is a mention of any political person in the text. During the coding process, a number should be assigned to each category. And coding is a set of rules that explain the method of observing the content in given texts. So coding will identify 4 important characteristics, and you should know it. These characteristics are frequency, direction, intensity, and space. So what is the meaning of frequency? Frequency describes the number of times a particular code occurs in a text. Direction is the way in which the content appears. Is it positive, negative, opposite, or support? Intensity denotes the number of strength towards a particular direction. Then space refers to the amount of space assigned to the text or the size of the message. Then to analyze the results and draw conclusions. So after coding, the collected data is examined to find patterns and draw conclusions in response to the researcher's research questions. Researcher may use some statistical analysis to find correlations or trends, discuss his interpretations of what the results mean. So once the coding is complete, the collected data are examined to draw conclusions which conform to the research questions. The researcher may use some statistical analysis to show the correlation between various units and take out the inferences. So after completing the analysis, there will be several sets of information organized and available as files. So this has to be presented in a report format that can be easily understood by the recipient. This involves a review of the final results, identifying the patterns, arranging all the information in a sequence, and finally presenting it in the form of a report. So these are the sources. Thank you.